Hello, Aquano here, and we're back for another Trails in the Sky first chapter guide. And today, no build guide, no sipit farming. We're going to talk about a subject that will interest you no matter at which point in the game you are. And this will be about droplets. So droplets are these items that you get pretty often in the game. You mostly get them from rewards, sometimes from chests. And there is, in total, at least 6 kinds. Yeah, I think there's 6 kinds. Let me know in the comments if I'm missing one. But I try to keep at least one of each so I can talk to you about this. So these are very, very important because they are permanent stat upgrades. Giving them to your characters will make them stronger, and they come in limited amounts. You cannot buy them. Therefore, it makes them a very important resource and rare resource. So you should spend them carefully. So in this video, we'll talk about which character should receive which stat. And also, I said 6, but there's 5. That one is just the same thing. It's magic again. But yeah, we will talk about every single stat. There's going to be a section for every single stat. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So before we get to every section for every single stat, there's 2 things you guys need to know about team compositions when it comes to Trails in the Sky first chapter. The first thing is that Estelle and Joshua will be part of your team for the entire game. Therefore, they are a bit more important than the others when it comes to resources. Giving them droplets will almost never be a bad choice because you will have them from beginning till the end. Second thing you need to know is that the other party members that are not Estelle and Joshua will come and go. They have their own chapter. Some of them appear in one more chapter, but they all appear in the end of the chapter 4, and obviously in the final chapter, the final dungeon. Now, in chapter 4, you don't really have a choice. There's going to be some parts of the game where you will have to play everyone in 2 different teams. There's going to be some parts in the game where characters will come and go from time to time. I won't spoil you who will be played in what order in chapter 4. You'll have to go through the story to figure that out. But there's one thing I need to tell you, and that is at the end of the game, for the final dungeon and final boss, that it will be the only moment where you can choose your team. And that is important. You can choose your team. The fact that there is a choice to be made means that you need to, like, yourself make a choice early, because the earlier you make your choice of which character you want to play, the better it is. Now, I know it's not easy to make a choice early because you don't know all the party members yet, which is why it is a safe bet to invest in Joshua and Estelle, because you will have to play them throughout the entire game. In the final chapter, you will have to choose between the 6 other characters. You have to choose 2 of them to fill up your party, because your party will be composed of Estelle, Joshua, plus 2 characters among Olivier, Shera, Kloe, Agathe, and 2 others that you might have not seen yet. They show up in chapter 3, so in case you haven't been in chapter 3, I'm not going to spoil them yet, but you've seen them in the opening cinematic and in the trailers. So now that you know this, that Estelle and Joshua stay with you the entire time, and that you need to choose 2 party members out of 6 at the end, let's start with the first stat, HP. So for the HP stat, I recommend 3 choices. First of all, in the early game, if you're struggling with the early game bosses, like the Josette boss, the Kyle boss, you can definitely give all of your life droplets to either Estelle or Joshua, or you can try to kind of distribute them evenly to both to make sure they both have a high enough base HP. That is your first choice. It is definitely not a bad choice. Your second choice is to wait till chapter 2 to give them all to Kloe. You can also mix and match, by the way. I did that. I gave a bunch of life droplets to Estelle and Joshua. Then in chapter 2, I'm also giving a lot of them to Kloe. The reason why you want to give them to Kloe, and that will be the same reasoning for defense and ADF, and that is because of her ultimate, her S-Craft, Lichtkreis. Lichtkreis is a very, very important S-Craft, probably the most important one in the entire game, and that is because it revives every single party member and heals them all and shields them all in one simple click. It has an infinite range, it hits the entire field, and therefore you want Kloe to be safe and live as long as possible, because if she is the last one standing, it is perfect for you. In one button, your entire team is back to life, so you really want Kloe to stay alive. Also, Kloe has 2 blue lines, which means most of the time you will have HP 2 on her. If you don't, you know, you're kind of trolling. You really want HP 2 on her, and HP 2 scales off your HP. Obviously, it is a percentage, which means the more HP you give her, the better. There are going to be some builds where you will not give any HP to Joshua, even though he does have the protect, and I've seen people talk about this. They said, oh, this guy has the protect passive, so I want to make him tankier. Yes, you could do that, but don't forget that the protect ally prevents you from dying anyways. So getting tanky, yes, well, it's good because you have more HP to work with. You don't really need to be tanky, especially since Joshua wants as much damage as possible. If you're doing the Estelle tank build with Sweet Aroma, which I talked about in my Ruan build video, giving her HP is also very good. So TLDR for HP, Estelle, Joshua, and Kloe works very well. I would prioritize giving them to Estelle in the beginning, a bit of Joshua, and then when it comes to in chapter 2, give them all to Kloe. The tankier Kloe is, the better. Now, let's talk about defense and spirit droplets. I'm going to put them together because they have a similar reasoning but reversed. So, Estelle and Joshua have even stats when it comes to ADF and defense. Now, they are different right now because I gave them droplets, but they have pretty similar defense and spirit. So in the early game, you want to give them to Estelle and Joshua evenly to make sure their defenses are good on both sides, on the magic side and the defense side. Now your defense stat is a bit more important because over the course of the game you will be taking more physical damage on average, especially for like strong bosses like Josette, Kyle, or the entire Capua family boss fight. So defense is a bit more important, especially if you're using ornaments like defense 2 to increase your defense in percentage. Now, that is not the case of Kloe. Kloe does not have even defenses, and that is the same thing for Olivier. But we're not talking about Olivier now, we're talking about Kloe because making her tankier is better. For Kloe as a caster, and that is the case, that is a very common JRPG trope, by the way, for those who play a lot of JRPGs. Usually the casters, the magic users, have a higher magic defense. It makes sense, right? And that is the case of Kloe. So I don't recommend using your ADF on your ADF droplets on Kloe. Look at this. I've used droplets of spirits on Estelle and Joshua quite a lot, and they still have a lower base ADF than Kloe by a lot. So yes, when it comes to ADF, I do not recommend using your spirit droplets on Kloe because she will not be lacking magical defense, that's for sure. But when it comes to defense droplets, definitely do give a lot of them to Kloe, at least a dozen, something like that, just minimum. After that, you can start giving some to Estelle and Joshua to make them as tanky. But when you have extra defense droplets, always give them to Kloe. So yeah, I wanted to put defense and ADF in the same section to kind of explain to you that they're not entirely the same because some characters need one more than the other. So without further ado, let's go to the strength section. For strength, very short section and efficient. Just give everything to Joshua. Don't even hesitate. The moment you get a strength droplet, give it to Joshua as soon as possible. You will not regret. If you don't want the reasoning and you just trust my word, just skip this part and go to the next stat, because honestly, it is as simple as that. Give every single strength to Joshua for two reasons. You want to give every strength to Joshua for two reasons. The first reason, like I said in the beginning, Joshua will be in your party for the entire game and you cannot remove him, which means you cannot lose value for giving this strength to him. For example, if you give strength to Agatz and then later in the game you decide to not play him, you might be losing value here, but you will never lose value by giving strength droplets to Joshua, especially as he is an insane physical DPS, can wipe entire boards of enemies with his Black Fang S-Craft. So with strength, don't think about it further. Literally, you don't need to think about it. Just, there's enough things to min-max in this game. When it comes to droplets of strength, give them all to Joshua and do not think about it further. Now it's time to talk about our last stat, and I think it's our last stat. I haven't found any evasion or speed droplets yet. I don't think they exist, because if I'm not wrong, this droplet system comes, well, it kind of mimics Daybreak. At least that's the one Trails game I've played that also has droplets, because droplets were not in the original Trails in the Sky. And in Daybreak, I don't think I've ever seen evasion or speed droplets. So as far as I'm concerned, these are the only 5 kinds of droplets you could find. So yes, this is the last section, and we will be talking about magic droplets. So for droplets of magic, you have 2 choices. I'm going to give you the 2 choices, and then I'm going to explain to you how you make that choice. So option number 1, give them to Estelle. That's an option. Early, she will be with you during the entire game, and when you're playing a section where it's only Estelle and Joshua, or Estelle, Joshua, and the physical attacker like Agathe or the 2 last party members that we haven't seen, Estelle is the best suited at using arts, even though she's not the best. There's 4 characters that are better than her, Joshua included. But the thing is, Joshua, even though he is better at casting arts than Estelle, he's also a lot better at doing physical damage than Estelle. Therefore, he wants to focus on doing physical damage, which means giving a couple of magic droplets to Estelle in the early game is not really a bad play. But if you want to min-max it, you want to tough it out and give 0 magic droplets to Estelle. The magic droplets are the only droplets I would recommend saving, because the life ones you can give them to Estelle and Joshua, the strength you can give them to Joshua, defense and magic defense you can give them to Estelle and Joshua, but magic, I would recommend saving them. That is very important. Why? Because there are 2 characters in the game that are very, very good at casting arts because they have 1 line. One of them is in our party right now. That is Kloe. Kloe has 1 single line, and while she is restricted to having 2 water quartz, she still has 1 line and cannot reach very big spells like Titanic Roar, a bunch of other things. And she can also have multiple big arts at the same time, and she's just very good. She also has either, I think, the 2nd highest ATS out of the game, or the highest. I think Olivier has the highest, but she also has an insanely good and usable ATS stat. And speaking of Olivier, he is your 2nd magic caster. So your 2nd choice would be to saving all of your magic droplets to use them all on one of these 2. So the reason why you don't really want to spread them is because most of the time you want to use one of them as a pure magical damage dealer, and the one I highly recommend is Olivier. If you're using Estelle as a tank, she's also going to be doing a bunch of physical damage, and then if you're using Joshua as a physical DPS, then you will have 2 slots left for potentially magical characters, casters. So having Kloe and Olivier in your party could actually work, and that is the party I used in my first playthrough. In the original game, I used Estelle, Joshua, Kloe, and Olivier. I don't know if I'll do the same. There's other choices for very good parties. But if you like Olivier, because I know Olivier is a pretty popular character, he is amazing, he's funny, he's hilarious. If you like Olivier and want to use him in the last dungeon, in the final dungeon, because again, I repeat myself, the final dungeon, the final act of the game, is the only part of the game where you can choose your party. So if you're planning on choosing Olivier as one of your extra 2 party members, then make sure to save all of your magic droplets and pump them all in his ass. Yes, I said that correctly. Pump them all in Olivier's ass. He wants as much magical drug as he fucking can have, honestly. Now, your other option, if you're not planning on using Olivier as one of your extra 2, then give them all to, I'm not gonna make a joke about Kloe, that's an underrated girl, but give them all to Kloe. All of your magic, she can work as a magical damage dealer while also helping the team with her S-Craft that revives the team. So yes, again, it is totally viable to give your magic droplets to Estelle if you want, but if you really want to min-max it, save them all and give them all to either Olivier or Kloe. So that was it for the last kind of droplets in the game. So that was it for the Droplets guide. If you have any question, if you have any other options you want to recommend and ask me if it's viable, feel free to ask me in the comments. Also, don't really worry about which characters to use. Every single character is viable. But when most people will approach the end of the game, I will be making a character tier list to help you guys choose your last 2 party members for the final dungeon. And also just for fun, when there's a JRPG with a bunch of playable characters, I like, you know, ranking them because it's just a fun activity, making tier lists. Nice, we love slub content. But don't forget that you have to choose a party member. Therefore, some party members, you will not use them for the end of the game, which is the hardest part of the game. So that is why it is, you need to think about who you give your droplets to, because if you give them to someone that you end up not using, you are wasting your droplets, and you don't want to waste your droplets. So make sure to use them wisely. It was Aquano. I'll see you guys next time. Make sure to check out my tier list full of trail guides, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.